As we all know, security cameras and alarm systems are not as useful as they should be. In fact, some of their best features are hidden and only accessible to the manufacturer. If I'm buying something and it is collecting all sorts of very valuable information, I would like to have access to that information. So my idea here is give you control over ambient radio frequency collection in your home or a place that you are trying to protect, such as, I don't know, your compound in the middle of nowhere, like myself. The problem this is trying to solve is someone goes up to your house, a strange car with no license plate, your LPR is useless, somebody shows up at your house wearing a mask, tries to set a flaming bag of dog poo on fire in your front porch. What are you going to do? If you can collect as much ambient radio frequency data as possible, incidental to the time, and then kind of sync it up with your cameras and all sorts of other things, you are in a better position when you can provide information to law enforcement or track it down yourself. All of the credit in the world goes to pioneers like Dr. Russell Handorf and the creator of Kismet, Dragorn. My goal here is to put it in a form that I have not seen yet, which is something that is click easy for anybody, where all you need is a few parts and you can do this yourself. Let's begin. By the end of this, you will have a device in your house that is collecting and monitoring all sorts of ambient radio frequency protocols, and you will be able to control that. So if you want access to know what were the tire pressure monitoring system sensors reading on the car that just strangely pulled up in front of my house? Who is the person that just put that flaming bag of dog poop on my porch? What was their Wi-Fi P&L? Were they wearing an Apple Watch? Did they have a pacemaker? These are things that you will know. What materials will you need? First, you're going to need a Raspberry Pi. I have put this up using a Raspberry Pi 4B. I'm working on the 3 and the 5. And this really can be done with any old laptop or any computer that you have, but for the purposes of this, I am simplifying it and using a Raspberry Pi 4B, preferably with 8 gigabytes of RAM, but it'll work on 4 as well. Then you are going to need an SD card, but not any SD card. You are going to need one of those industrial SD cards that is made for dash cams. Here are a couple of links. I don't get any money for any of this, so I am just telling you the stuff that I personally use. Then you are going to need a case and a fan for the Raspberry Pi, because your form factor, you want it to make sense for what we're going to do. So it should be a little case like this. You're going to need a plug with a short USB-C cable. You are going to need a Zigbee dongle, a Wi-Fi dongle, and 2 RTL SDR dongles. You can use whatever you want. I'm just showing you what I use. The form factors that I use here, I have found are convenient for what I want to do. And then you're going to have to find a place to mount your device. And what I use is one of these guys. I'll show you the pictures. I put this on the plug closest to my front door, so it's collecting all sorts of stuff. I mean, well, technically I have 20 of these all around the house, so then I can start getting directional stuff, but that's a whole other story for the Tradecraft TV video. But let's go over the materials again. Raspberry Pi, case with the fan, plug with the short cable, thing for the wall, Zigbee dongle, Wi-Fi dongle, and 2 RTL SDR dongles. You're also, of course, going to need a laptop with the Raspberry Pi imager installed on it, as well as my compressed image file, which you could find in the links below. So here's legitimately how easy it is. You are going to get the SD card. You're going to plug it into your computer. You're going to open up Raspberry Pi Imager. You are going to select the Raspberry Pi 4B, and then you are going to select Custom Image. When you're at Custom Image, you will find the file that I have sent you. You just click straight through, accept, accept, accept. Make sure that you're selecting the right media and you're not deleting any system files. Then once it writes, you take that and then you just put it into your Raspberry Pi. So here's where we are. Let's go over the materials we are going to need. We're going to need a Raspberry Pi 4. I'm using the one with 8 gigabytes. We need a case for the Raspberry Pi. I'm using a random case from CanaKit. And we're going to need a fan for the Raspberry Pi because we need to maintain some sort of heat management on this thing. Then we are going to need 2 RTL SDR dongles. I am personally using the new Elec 3 Nano, which I will put links to up on the screen. We're going to need a Wi-Fi dongle. I'm using the Alpha Networks antenna there that I am putting up on the screen. And then we are also going to need some sort of Zigbee dongle which I'm popping down there. I'll put all the models for what I'm using there. But so far, here's what we got. We got RTL-SDR, RTL-SDR, Wi-Fi, Zigbee. And we need corresponding antennas for each one. Here's our Zigbee antenna, our alpha antenna. And if you would like specifically tuned antennas to the frequencies that we are working on, you can get those. But I'm using these two generic antennas for our purposes. One thing to note here, this little Nuelec Nano thing, it has a very sensitive plug. It is easy to break the antenna plug in there, which is why I don't plug an antenna directly into there. Instead, I use one of these adapters. I use this adapter here, and then I very carefully ensure, because if you see the adapter in here, the adapter has a little pin in there. This has a little hole for the pin. So I make sure to get it in very gently, so then I can then use the antenna on that. So I don't use the Nuelec router with the Nuelec Nano 3 with the antenna that it comes with. I get a separate antenna because it makes it more reliable and it doesn't break. You can of course buy whatever RTL SDR you want to buy and do whatever you want. You're also going to need an SD card with the firmware already burnt onto it. You should get a high endurance or industrial strength SD card like the ones that I have linked here. First things first, let's get the Raspberry Pi. Let's put it into the case. The case that I use here just snaps into place and doesn't require anything else other than that. Then, second part of my case is this here, just snaps right in. Then, my case actually has the fan on top of it here. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to install the fan first, install the fan, and then these little wires, very, very important. If you are looking at the pins just like this, the red one goes onto the top rightmost pin. Then you skip one pin and then the black one. Let's see if you can get a good look there. Once it is closed, pop the SD card in there. You're done. Remember what we discussed about these guys. Connecting the antennas, but I am using the adapters on these things, and then I'm going to screw on my antenna. I like these antennas that you can turn at a 90-degree angle because I like them dangling down. So I pop that in there on this one, and I put it on the next one. Important to know for these specific RTL SDRs, your Raspberry Pi has 4 slots, so you can plug these in one on top of the other or side by side. Like this. I like doing it one on top of the other. So I just go here and then plug it in there. And that way they can just dangle like that. Same thing, let's put together our Wi-Fi adapter. Let's put together the Zigbee adapter. And you can buy a case for the Zigbee adapter. I just don't need a case. I'm just doing what I'm doing right now for demos. And then of course I like doing them at a 90-degree angle. 90-degree angle again, just like this, and then just pop them in there. I actually like doing the Zigbee on top and the alpha networks on the bottom, and then there you are. You have it, and this is what you are going to put on your little shelf that we described. Bam, it just sits on the shelf, and you are all good to plug it into the wall. So this is it. This is ready. That's the whole thing that you had to construct. I promise I'll make a better video later, but for now, there you have it. Then you're going to plug in the Raspberry Pi. You're going to put it into your wall. You're just going to place this as you see in the pictures that I am probably showing you at this moment. This little guy will simply go on here and you're done. There you go. That's how easy it is. This is on your wall. Imagine this being your wall, your plug on your wall like this. The Raspberry Pi is plugged in there and you are good to go. Well, technically it's in front like this, and then this guy goes into the wall. And yes, put some tape on it or something so it doesn't slide down. But that's it. This sucker is sitting on your front door collecting all of that. Now, if someone does something to one of your family members or something like that, you have some logs. You can try to hide this as well, and that way nobody gets to it. There are more advanced things that you can do. Right now, what this does is all of the logs are recorded locally. There are a bunch of other security features like no SSH, no Wi-Fi, no internet connectivity whatsoever. You actually have to go into this and put a keyboard on it and plug in a USB drive if you want to pull logs off. There are ways to remotely store your logs and network these together. We will cover that in the Tradecraft TV video, which I'm gonna get around to recording. I have just been very busy, but for now, if you have this, plug it somewhere in your house, you're at least going to get data. So God forbid something bad happens, you are not stuck doing nothing. You have some sort of data that you can provide to law enforcement, or you can start trying to figure it out yourself so you know who you are looking for. Okay, now for the fun part. You have your thing running. If you would like to look at a live version of what is going on, you're going to have to connect it to your local network. I don't recommend connecting it via Wi-Fi. We will discuss later some Wi-Fi options, but what I've done for this demo is I have physically plugged in this thing into my router. Remember, this thing can be placed anywhere. So I've just put it close to my router. It's still running, it's still collecting, but I have physically plugged it into my router. I'm going to run a very easy Nmap query. That is an Nmap query looking for port 2501 because the GUI for Kismet is running on localhost 2501 on that Raspberry Pi. This is not accessible from the internet. I repeat, this is not accessible from the internet unless you have opened up a port on your router or for some reason have plugged this directly into an internet accessible, wide open internet connection. I don't even know how you do that, but never mind. Run this command and you're going to get the following result. You're going to see a host. There's going to be at least one host on there that has port 2501 open. And then you are going to see the IP address of that host. You're going to copy that IP address. You're going to open up a web browser. And then you're going to go to that IP address and port 2501. You're going to go to that IP address and port 2501 in the address bar. You're going to be met with this. You're going to create a username and password. This already has a username and password that I previously created, which is why it is asking me to log in. But in your case, it's going to ask you to first create a username and password. Once you're logged in, you are going to see all of this fun stuff. You can go up here where it says all devices. You can choose to see any specific type of device, or you can choose down here at the bottom where it says data sources. You can pick which one of the data sources you want to look at. Anything that says the TIC 2531-0, that's going to be the Zigbee. The reason I chose Zigbee as a protocol is because a lot of home security systems run on Zigbee. So any anomalies, any aberrations in the data, all of that can be very useful in a home security setting. Then you go down to the bottom, RTL 433-0. I have set that to be a 315 megahertz sensor for tire pressure monitors. Down, RTL 4331, that's the other dongle. That's going to be at 433 megahertz. That is a lot of the temperature sensors, humidity sensors in home automation, as well as tire pressure monitoring system sensors for some European and other models. Then, of course, HCI 0, that is going to be the internal Bluetooth that is picking up all of the Bluetooth stuff around and Bluetooth low energy. And of course, this might be a different one for you guys, the WLX something or other. That is the identifier for your Wi-Fi adapter, and that's going to give you all of the Wi-Fi info. All of this is saved to logs. We are now going to cover how to get logs. So again, real easy. All you need is the IP address of the Raspberry Pi. It's got to be connected to your local network. Go to a web browser, type in the address with 2501. And by the way, this is HTTP, not HTTPS. So you may get some warnings. You're just okay ignoring those warnings. Sure, we could secure this more later, but this is intended to only temporarily be connected to your network. It is not intended to be permanently connected to your network. So I imagine you're going to eventually want to get the logs off. In that case, what you're going to have to do is remove all of the adapters from the Raspberry Pi. All of the adapters removed, plug in a keyboard, plug in a micro HDMI into a monitor, and then plug in and power on the Raspberry Pi. You're also going to need a thumb drive because you're going to put the logs onto the thumb drive. So just let the Raspberry Pi boot up. Wait until you're seeing something on the monitor. Eventually, you're going to be met with a login screen like this. You're going to use the username and password that is by default in the instruction manual, which is the UTS guy, and the password is very, very important. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure to change your password. Follow these links to figure out how to make sure you change your password. So you're logged in here. And the first thing you should do, of course, is change your password if you're connecting this to the internet. Change the password from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's up to you. Follow these links. So then what you're going to do is you're going to type LSBLK. You're going to see this. Right now, you don't see your USB on there because it is not plugged in. Now plug in your USB and then type that again. As you notice, now that you typed in LSBLK again, you now see your USB drive. And that USB drive, in my case, is SDA1. So what you're going to do now is you're going to type sudo mount /dev/SDA1, and you're going to mount it into a directory of your choosing. I personally just like mounting it to /media, boom, password, bam, done. So then I'm going to now move my logs, which are in the following directory. I'm going to type ls so you can see it. They are in the UTS_Kismet logs directory. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy UTS Kismet logs all to media. Copied. Now let's just double check, make sure that all is there. CD/media, ls. Cool, all of the logs are there. Then I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go to any other directory, cd home, and then I'm going to sudo umount media, done, exit, and I'm good to go again. I can just turn off the Raspberry Pi, and now all of the logs are on the USB drive. And of course, let me know if you have any questions. This is going to have bugs in it. I am making it as best as I can and releasing it as quickly as possible. I will make improvements. Send me an email. Let me know what you think. If you find something that can be done better, let me know.